I'm here with Jan Kliger, who is on the steering committee for Ward Acres, organized by Mayor Bramson. Jan, the most important thing to you, you told me, was to talk about what Ward Acres means to you. So would you mind doing that for me?
I'd be glad to. I've been going to Ward Acres for over 20 years. I've lived in 3 different houses, all within a couple of miles. And now I'm living within walking distance. It's one of my rituals. I work with senior citizens, so I've learned over the years how important rituals are to develop. And I've been going, as I say, every day for the last 20-something years. And there were times when I had friends that I met and walked with, and now I walk with my dog, Susie. This is my second dog at Ward Acres. And we just walk fast every day. And my day is not complete unless I have a good walk. I do have a lot of friends there, but it's really about the serenity and the peace and the idea that I can go whenever I want that is so important to me. There are over 30 parks in New Rochelle, none of which allow dogs, as far as I know, and certainly not off-leash. And I don't understand really why Mayor Bramson felt at this point that we needed to change things. There was much discussion at the steering committee, which was formed. I think there were 4 people from the park that were invited. There were various community or neighborhood presidents or leaders, and probably there were 10 of us, a couple of council people, or maybe just Annette Sussman. I'm trying to remember who all was there. Anyway, it seemed to me in the beginning it was about the barn and what to do with it because it is unsafe. It's been left to decay over the years by New Rochelle, and all of a sudden now there seemed to be great interest. Volmer was brought in as a consultant to do a study. They did aerial views. I have never seen a more extensive, expensive, and wasteful report as I did from Volmer. As I say, aerial views. Never once was there a discussion about the fact that there's some serious water and contaminated water in the park that needs to be addressed. We were the ones that brought that up. So their involvement with doing their aerial views was really much ado about nothing. Clearly they saw the vines. We've been working on the vines. We have a couple people that have been working there, for weeks cutting vines. So I have a really difficult time understanding what the real agenda is that Mayor Bramson has. I think the Greenway has something to do with it. I guess the Greenway goes through Ward Acres. I'm not sure why that's a problem. But we did spend many hours at these steering committee meetings. Maybe there were 4 or 5 of them. They lasted 2, maybe 3 hours. We went around and around about trying to come up with fair hours, trying to figure out who really wanted to come to the park. We had presented petitions, letters had been written, emails sent. Hundreds of people had contacted the city council regarding leaving the park alone. A lot of people have talked about the idea of the fence. That was something I was totally against from the get-go. There's not supposed to be any building in that park. And I'm afraid that once they put in a fence, there are 2 things I think might happen. They then will feel that we fenced you in and now you don't need to be off-leash at all. I can't go to that park if it's not about walking for me. So standing in a fenced-in area with a group of dogs doesn't work for me. My dog won't tolerate it. She needs to move, and so do I. That's why I go. So that's one reason. And the other reason is I think once they put in a fence, they'll feel they can build something else. And so I don't want to, and it's a natural, beautiful place. It doesn't belong there's no fencing doesn't belong there. And they don't have the money for a fence anyway. So I don't know why there was even a discussion about the fence. In the beginning, I remember Mayor Bramson suggesting hours. I think he said till 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And all of a sudden it changed and it got much more stringent in terms of allowing people to use, other people using the park. What I'm trying to understand is who all is wanting to come to the park. There's been very little discussion about who these people are. Part of me thinks it must be a group that is supporting Mayor Bramson, maybe sees himself, having maybe he has political aspirations, and maybe some of these people are his donors. I don't know. I can't understand what the agenda is, but what I don't, a lot of things I don't understand about what's happened. But after spending so many hours discussing the hours, going through why the barn needs to be restored or not restored, they spent endless time, and absolutely nothing is going to be done with the barn because there is no money. Bill Zimmerman is another part of the group, and he's the recreation director, I think, for New Rochelle. I know him from Mamaroneck or Scarsdale, one of those two towns. And he's really the one that brought this whole Ward Acres up to discussion. I think he sees it as an asset, which it is to New Rochelle, but the asset is what it is now. And the community is so full. And actually, as a result of Mayor Bramson's attention to this park, it is more crowded than it's ever been. I have never seen so many people in one park. And it's fine with me because I can go when I want. But if you start concentrating everybody before 10 o'clock and after 4 or 5, I think you're going to have some problems. I don't think it makes any sense at all. So I would like to know what the hidden agenda is, and I think that it would be nice if the city council came clean and told us really why it is that they need the park for everybody else when there are 30 other parks that people can go to whenever they want.
And the experience of being on the steering committee, would you characterize it as a frustrating experience?
Totally frustrating. I cried after every meeting and sometimes at the meeting. Yeah, it was horrible, and it was like banging your head against a wall.
You feel, were the Ward Acres, the people who actually use the park, were they not represented enough, do you feel?
We were there. I think, unfortunately, I'm very outspoken, and I was and continue to be, and the others, for the most part, were not to begin with. As time went on and we could see that we were not making any inroads, that they were not really paying attention to what our needs were, then people started to speak up and it became more comfortable for me. But we had a big march. We had about 100 people on a Sunday. Vicki Rothweiler set that up. We all wore T-shirts. We had placards. You know, we had, Mayor Bramson was kind enough to have open meetings. I think there were 2 or 3 of those. We had speakers. Everybody came up. Everybody agreed that the hours needed to be fair. And I think that if they wanted to use the park for school children across the street, which I think is perfectly great, for nature walks or whatever, they ought to take a couple of afternoons, maybe Tuesday and Thursday afternoon from 3 to 5, and that's when you can't have any dogs in the park. Maybe that's the way to do it. But to assume that people are going to use the park, you know, on a Sunday afternoon and none of us can go, or we have to have our dogs on leash. And dogs on leashes are not the same as dogs off of leashes. I can't go there with my dog on a leash. I'll go on my own and have to walk her around the block, which is, of course, nowhere near as satisfying. I don't even know why they had a steering committee. It made no sense to me. Nothing was decided on the barn. I think actually they decided they wanted to try to raise $750,000 to mothball it because it's unsafe the way it is right this minute. And I don't know where they were going to get the money for, and they don't have the money for the fence either. So I really didn't understand the point of it, and the fact that we all came forward, we all mobilized, we all tried to make our points at all of these meetings, and on deaf ears, and that was really frustrating. So I'm very glad to see that there's some more interested people. We sort of got burned out because this has been going on for over, I don't know if it's a year. It feels like it's over a year, but I don't know. And I hope maybe this will make a difference. I hope people will really step forward, and I think the idea of the fees in one town and another town, you know, changing the prices makes no sense. And it is a very intact community that people go to every day. I was there one day, I was feeling blue, and I walked around and I said to myself, what is the one thing I can count on in life? I was thinking about my daughter and my animals and my family and my friends, and I said, you know, I can always count on this park. Whenever I come here, I always walk out feeling better. And it's true. It's my little paradise.